Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Lindsay, and I'm the PTAC at the JSU Small Business Development Center. Most of you are probably familiar at least with the Small Business Development Center, what we call the SBDC. It is a grant-funded program, and we've been around since 1981. We offer small business counseling and workshops in the area. My position is a little bit different. I offer the same sort of counseling and workshops, but I help clients who want to sell to the government, and that can be federal, state, or local. And a lot of that ends up being helping clients get certifications they need, especially on the government end. Although I work mainly with SBA certifications that will help people get government contracts. Today, we're not just talking about the woman-owned program for that. We're going to be talking about 3 different certifications. So don't get worried if you think this is just going to be for government contracting, in case that is not something you're interested in. We're going to go over different ones. What I'm planning on doing is every few slides taking a little, not a break, but stopping to make sure there's not any questions. So after I go over what is considered a small business, things like that, I will be watching the chat box, or at least me or Kim will be, one of us will be. So we'll try to answer the questions as we go. Like I said, we'll stop every couple of slides. Okay, so today what we're going to do, like I said, is talk about the different woman-owned business certifications. The outcome should be, you should be able to decide if a formal certification is right for you or not. It might not be. You might not need it for who your customer is. We're going to understand what certifications are and what is required of each certification, because they are all different. We're going to look at the different benefits of each certification, and we will learn where to apply for each of these. So hopefully that's what we will learn through this workshop today. Just kind of an overview of some workshops I have coming up. These, of course, are all related to government contracting, but well, I just changed this one. This one that says SBIR, STTR in October, it will now be October 28th instead of the 14th. If you're unfamiliar with that, if there's any businesses listening that's very interested in research and development, that is a great program. This is not for someone who is just trying to sell an already in place product to the government. But if you are interested in research and innovation and things like that, it's a great workshop to attend. On November 2nd, we will be doing a cybersecurity workshop geared towards government contractors. This is a very important workshop starting this year. All DoD suppliers, and that is your prime contractors, subs, sub of a sub, sub of a sub of a sub, and down the line, have to have certain cybersecurity measures in place before they can be utilized. So even though some of you are not necessarily a prime contractor with the government, if you go down the chain a little bit, you might have a place in there, and you will need to attend this workshop, because you will not be getting any kind of government contract, like I said, as a sub of a sub of a sub, if you do not have certain things in place. In January, in December, I will be doing one on researching opportunities, how to find these government contracts. January, we'll be doing GSA schedule work. This is just a platform for government contracting. If you're not in government contracting, I know that won't matter to you, but if you are and you're interested, let me know. April, we'll be doing one on accounting basics, again, geared towards government contractors. The one in May is always really good and well attended. We have the Director of Contracting, Mr. David Bunt, come in and do just kind of a casual roundtable donuts and coffee discussion just about government contracting in general, and give kind of his expertise on things. And then we will end my fiscal year, which ends in July, but in June, on forecasting opportunities for the next couple of years at Anniston Army Depot. So again, if anyone's interested in attending these, just let me know and I will put you on our mailing list. Okay, so we're going to get started on the woman-owned business certification options. We're first going to talk about the SBA options. This is the one, of course, that I deal the most with just because I deal mainly with government contracting. It's called you might hear it called as WOSB, and then there's a subset of this called the Economically Disadvantaged Woman-Owned Small Business, so EdWOSB. Then there is the ADECA OMBE certification, and then we've got the third-party certifications. And again, we will go through all of these. So, are there any questions up to this point? I'm going pretty quickly. I don't see any questions. Oh, goodness. Okay. Sorry, I had a little malfunction there. Okay, so this is only important, the WOSB and the EdWOSB is only important to people who are interested in federal government contracting. Now, again, this is just kind of like the cybersecurity part. If you're interested in being a subcontractor, this can be useful also. In the past, it was a self-certification. So what that meant was you went into the SBA portal website, which we'll go to in just a minute, and you uploaded a few documents, and then that was it. They were like, congratulations, you are self-certified. Well, that has changed, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But the reasoning for this is 23% of all the government buys, the federal government buys, had to be from a small business, and inside that, there's subsets. And 5% of these contracts have to be awarded to woman-owned small businesses or economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business. If you are interested in this, please keep in mind that you do not have to use a third-party certifier, meaning you do not have to go through WeBank or the National Chamber of Commerce, the Women's Chamber of Commerce, and pay to get this done. Even though some of the process has changed, you still can do it on your own. So there is no cost to apply for this. So I am going to share my screen, and we are going to go to, possibly. Okay, here we go. Can someone tell me what all they are seeing? Because I'm not able to pull up what I'm trying to. Anybody? Oh, there we go. Okay. So we're going to go to, this is the SBA page. I wanted to go ahead and start on the main page and just show you what it's going to look like. If you're looking for the Woman-Owned Small Business Program, of course, it's under federal contracting, okay? So if you'll just scroll to that and go to the Woman-Owned Business Program, this has a wealth of knowledge, and surprisingly, it actually stays pretty updated. It will show you the basics of what you have to qualify and where to go to get registered. Again, we are going to go over some of this too. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay. Okay. So with the woman-owned small business, economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business through the SBA, you must be considered small by SBA standards. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this, how that works, there are certain NAICS codes that qualify for this, and there are certain dollar values, revenue values, or employee counts that consider you small business. Again, it depends on your industry. Typically, if you're in manufacturing or in research and development, it's going to be based off of employees, and you have to have 500 or less employees. So they are very lenient on that. I know a lot of us don't consider a 500 employee business being small, but SBA does. In any other industry, it's done by revenues, and it just depends. It varies. So it could be, 2.5 million up to 50 million, depending on the industry. The easiest way to do this is just, I'm a Google person, you know, everybody likes to go in there and save pages on their favorites and stuff. I don't. I just Google something and I find it. So if you will just Google NAICS codes, it'll take you up to a page that'll show you exactly, you know, what the different NAICS codes are and what the different dollar values are. Okay, you must be registered in SAM. If any of you are already doing government contracting, I'm sure you're very aware of SAM. But if you are not, all SAM is kind of like your resume for government contracting, and you put your banking information in there, and that's kind of how you get paid. So that's an important part. If that is something that you're interested in and you haven't done yet, just let me know. I can walk you through the process. The main thing to remember is if you try it on your own, there is no cost to do this. There are many companies out there that try to charge you for services to do it for you. I mean, I've seen it anywhere from $300 up to $3,000. So just know there is no cost whatsoever on it. It has to be owned by a U.S. citizen, and it must be 51% owned and controlled by a woman. I have that "and controlled" in red letters because that's the important part. Like I said before, it used to be self-certification and no one really looked at the information you put in the portal, but that has changed. This means that you can't just have it on your articles or in your operating agreement that the woman is 51% and then everything else makes it look like the other party is in charge. So this is very important right now because of the change where SBA is actually going to be saying yes or no on these certifications. Okay, so like I had said before, you do not have to use a third party to get certified. I know on the SBA side, it gets a little vague. It does say on there that you can do it by yourself, but then it also gives you a list of different third party certifiers that you could go through, but just know you do not have to use that. You will upload documents into, it's not the basic SBA page, it is a beta.certify.sba.gov. And we're gonna go to that, and I'm hoping that it will transition and open up better for this one than it did on the last one. Well, I'm not sure what's going on. No. That's not it either. There, I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. So we're going to go to, first we're going to go to the prepare site. This is again on that beta.certify.sba.gov. I believe we're probably going to be giving out these workshop or these slides from the presentation. So you'll have the different links. But again, I Google everything. If you'll just put in beta.certify.sba, it'll come up. What we're going to look at just for the woman-owned small business certification, again, there's certain NAICS codes that qualify. That's what's a little different about this certification, and certain that don't. Mostly the service, the manufacturing, and the research and development are going to be considered woman-owned small business. You will need to be registered in SAM, like I had talked about, have a proof of citizenship. It has to be a birth certificate or passport, something like that. A resume. If you're a corporation, of course, your articles of incorporation and your bylaws. And if you're an LLC, operating agreement, and then your partnership agreements, anything like that. We're going to stop here and talk just a little bit more about that ownership and control part. What I'm finding a lot with my clients is on the articles and any kind of operating agreement, what I'll see is the woman is 51% owner. But then when it gets to a section talking about voting rights, it'll say, you know, both owners have equal voting rights. Well, that can't be the case if the woman is in control. So I recommend, if this is something you're going after, talk to me before you submit these things. Because, you know, typically we just Google online and find a good operating agreement, and it pretty much makes everything 50-50. And for anything but government contracting, that's probably fine. But for this, that's not the case. So make sure before you do submit these items that you let me or your local PTAC look at it and make sure they fit. There's no reason to visit a lawyer for it if you don't want to, if you don't already have one. This is something we can kind of just quickly go over. All right. Okay, so are there any questions? I don't see any. Okay, so we're going to move on. The Economically Disadvantaged Woman-Owned Small Business Program, again, is an SBA program. The difference here is you have to be economically disadvantaged, as well as being a woman-owned business. You know, there's several things to this. There's more to it, but just for an overview, of course, it has to be owned and controlled 51% by a woman, and your personal net worth has to be less than $750,000. It needs to be owned and controlled by one or more women, each with $350,000 or less in adjusted gross income. Owned and controlled by someone with $6 million or less in personal assets. So again, as you can see with these small business standards, they're pretty lenient, because again, I wouldn't think of someone with $6 million in personal assets being a small business, but SBA does, so that's great for everyone. And again, you're going to apply it the same place. We are going to go back. Like I said, this screen is not wanting to share like I want it to, but we're going to look at the requirements for the economically disadvantaged small business, because it is much more lengthy. You, of course, have to have the same things. You have to have the resume, the proof of citizenship, all the legal stuff, but this requires much more. You have to have tax information. Typically, you know, I'm not an accountant, but I typically say whatever came with your last year's tax returns, just send it in. We do have a couple of people in the SBDC that can help with that if needed, but like I said, I would just send in everything you've got. It'll be the 3 most recent personal income tax returns. They're going to want business information, tax information, and of course, and then if you look down at the detailed information regarding the value of the assets, I'm hoping all of y'all can see this. I think you can. This is where you're actually have to put in a personal net worth statement. Let's see if I can go in here and give you kind of an example of that. This is not anyways, okay. Let's try to go back. Anybody know why this is not cooperating? Okay, well, we're just going to move on from there. But basically, it goes in at the same place, but there are more documents that are required. Again, it really wouldn't have mattered in the past because it was self-certification, but now SBA has decided they want to start certifying versus just letting you self-certify. So this stuff is pretty important information. I think it's a good thing just because there are so many woman-owned small businesses out there that are claiming to be woman-owned and they're not. So I think this is going to be a good thing once everyone gets used to it. Okay. So are there any questions about the SBA portion on the federal contracting side before we move on to some that aren't related at all to federal contracting? Nobody has me any questions? Okay, well, we're going to move on. Now, this next certification we're going to look at, again, has no cost to it. It is through the state of Alabama, through the through ADECA, Alabama Department of Economic, somebody help me out here, and Community, I have a Q&A. Okay, so yes, are there any other woman-owned business certificates? That's what we're getting to right now. So thank you for that. Okay, so this one that we're talking about, the OMBE certification through ADECA, is not sufficient for the SBA Woman-Owned Small Business Program. There's no cost to apply. It's used in various industries, and it can actually be used as a federal subcontracting certification, in where if there's a prime contractor, if there's a large enough contract, a prime contractor has certain small business goals they have to reach, and this can be used for that. This is used sometimes, this certification, in the automotive industry. I know Hyundai honors this certification for their supplier diversity program. And I know some food industry, some of the large corporations in the food industry uses this sometimes. It's a good one to start with if you're not really sure, you know, which one you want to do, but you want one that's going to be the most flexible without having to pay. This is a good certification to go through. A lot of it is very similar to what we've already talked about. Has to be 51% woman-owned, controlled, and operated. So again, we have already talked about that. It can't be 51% owned by a woman in another state with another 40-hour-a-week job, and then they have a man controlling it from day to day. You can't have that, and you've got to put in so much information, it's going to be apparent if that is the case. This one, with the SBA one, there is no length of time. You have to have been in business to apply. But for this one, they prefer you to have been in business for at least a year. There are some exceptions to that. I've had that before. So if you've worked for a landscaping company in the past and you've just recently branched off on your own, and you want to get this certification, they're okay with that as long as you explain it. Of course, they're going to want to see all your applicable business licenses. You must be socially disadvantaged. I mean, that's in this situation, that would be woman-owned. Of course, there's many different ways to show that you are socially disadvantaged. And you must be economically disadvantaged, and they have their own set of standards, and it's mainly just by the NAICS codes. So again, if you fit those NAICS codes, you are good to go. Okay, and I'm going to try again to pull up this certification. I'm not sure. Oh, I see a very good question, and we're going to come back to that in just a minute. Let's see if I can. I have no idea why this is not coming up, but you know what? I have another way of doing this. I need well, I don't see it now. Here we go. Okay, so this is where you're going to find the ADECA OMBE application. Okay, so what we're going to look at is the application itself. It's got a lot to it. but it's not as scary as it looks. You will see, hopefully, can everybody see this? Somebody say yes for me. Kim, can you see this? Yay! Okay, so we can see it. So it'll show you, it says if you want to be registered with the state, you can put that in there. But again, if you're not interested in selling to the state, don't worry about that. You need your basic articles of incorporations, any other certifications you have. This one actually requires a statement of duties for each stockholder or business owner. Of course, the stockholder is going to have more to do if you're incorporated. Let's see, any kind of business licenses. We'll have federal and state income tax return for the previous 2 years. Of course, I always get the question if they're new, what if I don't have that? Then it's going to go back to just your personal. So if you do not have the tax returns yet for your new business, they will ask for personal. Bank signature card, you just get that from the bank. Capability statement. If you're not in the government contracting world, you might be like, what in the world is that? But that's basically like your business flyer. So if you have that, especially if you're not going after government work in any way, just your business flyer should work. Brief history of the business, picture ID, proof of citizenship, picture ID of each business owner. And again, that has a lot to do with the socially disadvantaged part of it. Now, what's funny is this is something you're actually going to have to turn in by snail mail. It actually has to be mailed in, not emailed in right now. But anyways, I'm going to kind of just barely go through this application for you. There's certain things that's not necessarily going to apply for you. They're trying to do a one for everyone. So if there's something on here that you think, oh, you know, this does not fit me, it's okay, just put NA. It does, like you can see, ask for customer business references, so you will need that. And again, if you're a new business, you can put people that you've worked with under the other business that you worked for. Bank and credit references. Again, here's, you know, trade specialty. If you don't have that, that's okay. Just put NA. Union name. If you don't belong to a union, same thing, NA. So that's what the application looks like. And I will tell you this, you do have to send in all of the required documents from the front page. If you do not, you will be turned down. Now, you can go back and reapply, but no one wants to have to do that. Even if something on here does not pertain to you, you need to have a sheet of paper there with whatever letter it is and say, you know, not applicable, just so they know that you did not just accidentally skip over something. Okay, let's see if I can easily go back. Okay. Yes, I don't know why it's so much easier for me to go back to this. Okay, and like I said, there are certain companies and organizations that honor this certification. The best thing to do is if you have a target company you're going after for to sell to, ask their small business person or their diversity person which certifications they will accept. Like I said, I know that Hyundai accepts this one, and US Foods. So I'm thinking also maybe they're a US Pipe. I believe they take this too. Unfortunately, ADECA does not have a list of different corporations that honor this. I've been after them for 3 years now for that, but they do not have it right now. But again, this is a good one to get you started and get your foot in the door. But like I said, the best thing to do is ask the right questions to your target audience. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and look. Can you be working another job and qualify for these programs? See, that is a very good question. The answer is possibly. If you can prove that you can give the business that's getting certified the kind of attention it needs, then yes, they might come back and ask you questions about it because of that, but it is possible. For example, I had a client that was going after, it was a different certification, but the same situation came up. She had a 40-hour-a-week job, but she had a counseling job on the side that she was wanting to get woman-owned certified. Well, she was able to come back and say, you know, I do my counseling in the evenings and on the weekends, so therefore, you know, I still have plenty of time to devote to the business I'm getting certified. So if you can prove that you are still in control of the day-to-day operations and that you are the majority owner and you can spend adequate time on the business, again, you have to be in charge of it day-to-day, the day-to-day operations, then yes, you can qualify for these certifications. So I hope that answered the question. If not, send me another question. Okay, so this is the one, the third party certifiers. These are the ones that a lot of your big automotive industries are requiring. Like I said, Hyundai uses, they'll take the other certification, but most of yours, the Toyotas and the Hondas, this is the one that they prefer, is a third party certification. I will say there's 3 or 4 different organizations that offer this certification. So I'm not saying one's any better than the other, but I'm going to more talk about the WeBank certification just because I'm more familiar with it and I work hand in hand with the rep for the organization. So just know that they are not the only ones, but they're the ones that I know the most about. You know, the same requirements are going to be there pretty much for this one. You have to be 51% owned and controlled and have the daily operations of the business. There's a whole lot of paperwork. So if you thought the ADECA certification was extensive, this one is too. Now, the good news is it is all online. So it's not like you're sending in this huge package via USPS. But we are, in theory, hopefully going to look at the documents required. So let me see if I've got, nope, no new questions, okay. Okay, I want to pull up, so why will not? There we go. Okay, so we're going to look at the certification criteria. Well, no, we actually want to go look at, there we go. This is what I want. Okay, so there's all sorts of different things to sign that they're requiring, you know, so we won't really go through that. But just like with the ADECA, they want to have a history of your business, any kind of licenses, resume, especially if you notice with the SBA woman-owned program, the resume was optional. That's not the case here. So they're wanting to make sure, again, that what I call it is a shell. Sometimes there's companies out there that try to just make it look like it's woman-owned as a shell. But they're looking at your resume to make sure that you actually have experience in the business, you know, that you're trying to get certified. I don't think there is a time limit, like you have to have been in business for a certain amount of time before you apply for this, but it's strongly suggested that you wait a couple of years to do this. But I don't think you have to. But you do have to, like I said, show business history, resumes of all the owners, whether it's the minority or majority owner. Let's see, financial information's 3 years of federal tax returns. Again, if it's not business, it's going to be personal. They get really extensive in here. They want to see loan agreements, your payables, anything like that. So they want to see what kind of equipment you have, anything. So this is a very extensive process. I have helped 2 people through this process, and they have actually gotten the certification. If they have questions about something, they will come back and ask you. So they want to certify you. They're not trying to find a way not to certify you. But I can help anyone through this. Again, it's going to take a lot of patience, but we can get through it. Again, there's bank signature card. Again, that's something you just get from your bank. Anyway, so there's all sorts of stuff they're looking for. If you are in the Alabama area, you're actually going to apply through WBEC South. And I think I may have that pulled up. Yes, here we go. Okay, so this is WBEC South. If you are interested in this certification, just email me. I have the rep's information. He is fantastic. His name is Lance, and I have worked with him for 3 years now. And he is more than willing to talk to you about it. So just let me know, but you will see this is the portal. Let's see. Hope I'm not making everybody dizzy scrolling through this here. Let's see. Okay, so here it is again with the certification. Now, something I will add down here, if you notice, is talking about SAM and all of that stuff we talked about earlier. If you are going to do the WBEC certification and you might do government contracting later, they do offer to go ahead and do that, the SBA part for you. Again, if you're just looking for the SBA portion, there's no reason to do this. But if you're going to do this, you might as well go ahead and let them push that through too. Now, the big difference in this certification and others is there's a cost. It's kind of like a National Chamber of Commerce. It can be very, very useful if you can utilize the opportunities they present. They do all sorts of networking events. They work with large organizations who are also corporate sponsors, and send out lists of different woman-owned businesses with the capabilities they're looking for, things like that. But if you do not have the time or do not feel like you can afford the time to actually utilize the things that they offer, I wouldn't do it. I know for, let's see, let me look that up. Okay, so here we go. You can see this. If your revenue is under $1 million, it's $350 a year. You know, 1 to 5 million, 500 a year. So it's really not bad. And I think there is a fee for the certification itself too. But it's really not that bad. If you can utilize it, it's great. And if you're going after some of these organizations who honor this, it is a great option. Let's see. Okay, so we don't have any more questions. Let's see if I can go back to our slides. Well, there we go. Okay. Okay, and like we had talked about, there's benefits to it. It's used in large industry, it's nationwide. There is the fee for certification, and they have all sorts of trainings and things like that. This is some examples of the companies that require this. I mean, everybody knows these different logos: Coke, Pepsi, Apple, Shell, Honda, and the list goes on and on. So if you're going after these larger companies, I would suggest, if you've been in business a little while, this might be the one you want to go with. Again, I hate it that it costs, you know, in our office, we try to give you options for things that don't have a cost associated with it, but sometimes there's just things that you need that's going to cost. Marketing basics. So, okay, are there any questions about these certifications so far before we go into something else? I'm going to give it a second and make sure nothing pops up. No. Okay. So for any of these certifications, you know, there's a common misconception that if I get this certification, the floodgate's going to open and these companies are going to be reaching out to me and needing my help. That's not the case. You got to think, yes, it's a great certification, but you're competing with about 10,000 other woman-owned small businesses out there, whichever market you're going after. You've got to have something to sell that the buyer wants. So if you are a company selling John Deere tractors and you're trying to go after Coca-Cola, I mean, I'm sure there's an opportunity there somewhere, but you know, that's just not going to help you. It's a great marketing tool, but it's not a golden ticket. Okay. You have to, like we'd already talked about, you have to use the resources available through the certification for it to be useful. And this is my number one pet peeve. Do not lead your sales pitch by your certification. So you don't want to go in, if you actually get a phone call or an email or even a face-to-face visit with any of these agencies that you want to sell to, do not say, hi, I'm a woman-owned business and this is what I do. Because what they're going to think is, you know, you lead in with your best asset. So if being woman-owned is your best asset, then there's going to be like, nope, next. So you want your certification just to be icing on the cake. So you want it to be, hey, let me tell you what I can do. This is what I do. This is what I do. This is what I do. This is my track record. Oh, and by the way, I'm a woman-owned, certified woman-owned small business. Okay, so that to me, if you don't get anything else out of the marketing side of this, that is a big deal. Do not lead your sales pitch by your certification. Okay, so we're actually rounding out here to the very end. Key takeaways, not all certifications are created equal. Like we said, there's some that are only good for federal contracting. There's some that are required that cost money that some of your larger organizations require. There are some like the ADECA out there that don't cost money that could be used by some of your larger organizations. And of course, certifications are tools, not a golden ticket. Now, I get a lot of smaller retail businesses ask me, you know, which certification should I get? And again, you have to look at who your customer is. If you're trying to sell wholesale to a national chain, you might want a certification like this. If you're just wanting to show your pride that you're a woman-owned business in your area, you don't necessarily need any of these. You can get the ADECA one, why not? But if you just want to market yourself as a woman-owned small business, I suggest just going on Google and looking at different woman-owned logos. Don't use the SBA one. And just, you know, using that, because if you don't have to have it for, you know, your target audience, then you don't really need it. But like I said, if you did want to get a certification, you could always go through ADECA and get that. Let's see. So I'm just going back to our original slide. We wanted to decide if a formal certification is right for you, see what the basic requirements were for each, the benefit of each, and see where to apply. So I believe we have done that today. I'm going to first, I forgot to do this at the beginning, I'm going to introduce Mary. Come on over here, our new SBDC business advisor. Let's see, I'm going to scoot out of the way and see if, there we go. Hi. Will you tell them just a little bit about yourself and your experience?
Okay. I've been at JSU for 8 years. I came to the Small Business Development Center from the Bursar's office. I was actually the Bursar for years. So I know the business side of things. I actually owned my own small business for 10 years. And I've worked in banking, so I've covered all the basics.
Good deal. Okay, thank you. So I wanted to make sure I did that. I was supposed to do that in the beginning, but I'm going to open it up for questions now. So anyone who had some questions that maybe hasn't asked yet, please go ahead, because we still have about 15 minutes. Everybody's quiet. I'm going to give it just another couple of minutes. Oh, we got a question. How does all this apply to obtaining grants? Okay, good question. With the Small Business Development Center and with the PTAC office, we don't typically work with people going after grants unless it has to do with, I talked in the beginning about the SBIR program. There could be some grants out there, typically for business, just regular business operation grants. There's not many out there. It's mainly going to be in the form of a loan. I'm sure there are grants out there for minority-owned businesses in certain areas. Like if there's a certain need someone has, and if they're a large organization or in the government. But typically, as a rule, there are not many small business grants. They're mainly in the form of loans. Let's see, we got another one. Ooh, is there a certification necessary for a woman-owned small business USDA loan? Very good question. I would imagine that if there is, it would be the SBA, because USDA is a federal organization. So I would imagine on the application, on the loan application, it's going to tell you where you have, what certifications are required. But I would imagine if you would go in and do the SBA one and just upload those like 4 documents, that would be sufficient for what they were going after. If you want to send me the application document, I will look over it and just make sure, just because I might know the lingo a little better, I will be happy to do that. That's a great question. So I'm going to have a slide on here with my email address. If you'll email it to me, I'll look at it and we'll decide which one, you need to do. But I would imagine just doing the SBA one would be fine. These were really good questions. Okay, so I'm going to keep looking at it just to make sure, but, well, I didn't put my contact information on there. Okay, can everybody see me? I hope so. Okay, so my email address is S as in Sam, F as in Frank, REY @jsu.edu, like education. Again, it's lsfry@jsu.edu. My phone number here is 256-782-5322. So please feel free to give me a call or email me, and I will be happy to help you with any of these certifications or anything I can do. If it's not SBDC, if it's not PTAC related, just email me and I will send you to the right business advisor in the Small Business Development Center. And I believe that is it, guys. Thank y'all so much for attending. I hope you were able to learn some information from this. So again, please contact me. Do not hesitate to call or email. I am happy to help. Y'all have a great day. Thank you.